From grain to glass, this show is dedicated to helping you make the best beer possible. So strap in and hold on to your mash tuns. We're Homebrew Bound. Welcome to Homebrew Bound. I'm Casey.
And I'm Brian.
This is the best beer show on the internet.
Hello.
All right. Before we go too deep here, I want to do the ad reads. So the American Homebrewers Association does a lot to support homebrewing and homebrewers, and now they support us. During the AHA, we'll give you discounts at homebrew shops and select tap rooms, as well as give you access to the fantastic Zymergy magazine. Click on the referral link at the bottom of our homepage and join today. Also want to give a shout-out to our patron, specifically Black Belt patron Andy Thompson. If you'd like to be as awesome as Andy, head on over to patreon.com/blindstudios and become a patron today. And if you're going to do any Amazon shopping, head over to blindstudios.com, click on the Amazon link above our homepage, do your Amazon shopping as normal, and then we get a bit of a kickback from Amazon. It really helps us out. All right. That is out of the way. Brian, my friend, my co-host.
Yes?
What have you been up to beer-related in the past week?
Well, so yesterday we had the first annual Freakin' Float.
Ooh.
Was at General Sam's in Somerset on the Apple River. Price of the ticket was $50, and you got a ticket. You got a campsite, a campsite, a float down the river, a 3-hour beer festival, and then the 3 hours after the festival, or during the festival, that whole entire 6 hours you could buy off sale. So we in Wisconsin, brewery and tap rooms have permits instead of liquor licenses, and we have 3 of them, and that's as many as we can ever get. If you have if you're Milwaukee Burger Company, you can have as many franchises as you want. As many locations as you want, but we can only have 3. So one of the things we can do is leverage that permit and get what's called a secondary temporary location permit. So essentially what we did is each of the 7 breweries that participated turned their campsite into a tap room.
Oh, cool.
Yep. So we can serve and sell beer out of a freaking campsite.
That's really cool.
Well, I mean, you could go up to the grocery store up in Hudson, and do that too. You just need to make sure that the feds, the TTB, ATF,
are cool with it.
Yeah, they'll rubber stamp it, and I don't know. We always play by the books with them, and we have some really nice, agreeable agents that we work with, and as long as you play by the books, usually the ask for permission rather than forgiveness model works a little better. So.
Right.
Yeah, and then we had the Rock the Lot party at the brewery as well. Firewater Gospel Choir played. It was a zoo. I want to say it was either the second or third best party we've had from a revenue standpoint. So it was up there. It was one for the books, to be sure. Other than that, we made a kettle sour. I think I might have mentioned that. And it is excellent. It is way more complex.
Oh, you finally tried it?
Yeah, it's still in the fermenter, and we just got the fruit puree in to add to it, and we're going to do 3 different types of fruit puree. We'll talk more about that when we actually get that in there. But and then we've decided to start a full-on sour program.
Oh, so that's official now.
It is completely official. We are also drawing plans to potentially build a cool ship on the roof of the brewery. But we'll have to, build a stainless steel.
It's pretty cool, man.
Yeah. Ship. Dad joke. So yeah, we're working on that. I'll talk more about that. But I mean, the type of sour program we want to do. I mean, we won't have any beers actually released for, years plural. So
yeah. Are you gonna do like a, I guess like a St. Croix Valley lambic?
Yeah, if we can, because we'd have to, build the cool ship on the roof and then put kind of like almost a farmhouse barn top part to the structure, and then we need to like check the structural integrity of the building and how much weight that much stainless is going to be, and blah blah blah. So I mean, there's all different types of ways to design a cool ship. And if you're listening and you don't know what a cool ship is, it's basically, I mean, Google it because it's kind of fun.
I feel like there's an entire episode behind Cool Ship that we could possibly do.
I think we could. So maybe maybe
we'll do that.
I'll save too much explanation, but it's like just an open vessel that you let the wild yeast and bacteria float in, but you have to do it in a certain way so that like there has to be a structure over the top of it.
So birds don't poop in it.
Birds don't take a shit in it. Yeah, but I've heard at Jester King in Austin that they had to take some. I think this is anecdotal. I can't remember if this is Jester King or not, but the deer like to roll in and drink out of it too.
I believe that.
Yeah. So.
Well, you shouldn't have that issue on a roof, unless they're like some high tech ninja deer.
I don't know, man. Yeah, Justin hit a deer recently. That's pretty common in our area.
I almost hit a deer
Wisconsin.
on my bike on Saturday.
For God's sake.
I was biking, going, I don't know, like 20-ish, down a hill, and there was a deer that ran out, and I was like, oh, that's cool, deer. And then there was a second deer that came out, went to the other side of the road, saw me, and decided that nope, that side of the road wasn't safe, and had to go back over. And I don't know, like, just I could have touched it, like.
Nope. No thanks.
I was like, no, this is good. This is good. I need to go to the ER this morning.
Casey's brush with nature.
But yeah, let's see. Other than that, beer. So my friends had Meat Day 2019 yesterday.
Nice.
And that's not really a beer thing, but they're really big into like smoking meat and stuff. And so they did. It was 2 appetizers and 3 courses, all meat. There was beef bacon, which I had never had. It's like really fatty, like or it was, what was it? Was it? I think it was like short rib or something.
Oh, okay.
That was cut into like bacon strips.
Oh, wild.
It was really good.
Nice.
And they smoked that. And then they had some really good chislic, and then like 3 different courses of meat. On the last one, it was steak that was sliced thin, and then they had 11 different finishing salts that you could choose from.
Holy crap!
So they had a salt flight, and so you could taste different salts on the meat. That was a lot of fun.
Nice.
And then a blue cheese butter compote that was phenomenal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, these guys are serious.
Steak. It was
obviously.
it was some serious stuff. But yeah, other than that, I got a new grain mill. I don't remember if I talked about that last time or not. Yeah, I got a new grain mill, which will lead into today's discussion: milling.
Yeehaw!
I upgraded my old Corona mill, which and then got an actual grain mill.
Giddy up!
All right, but we have a bunch of beer to try, so we should probably talk about that. Huh? So the first one, I think we're gonna start this. We're gonna start with the Creek.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me! Am I brand new?
All right. Yeah. So it is style 23F fruit lambic. I put the thing in there. Yeah, that was my bad for being slow on that. Overall impression: we're looking for a complex, fruity, pleasantly sour wild wheat ale fermented by a variety of Belgian microbiota. Blah, blah, blah. Yep. And showcasing the fruit contributions blended with the wild character. The type of fruit can sometimes be hard to identify as fermented, and aged fruit characteristics can seem different from the more recognizable fresh fruit flavors. So we went with Creek, which is lambic with cherry, essentially. And so here's the recipe. 6 pounds of Belgian Pilsner, and 4 pounds of wheat. So yeah, 60% Pilsner,
okay,
40% wheat, and then we used the Belgian Lambic blend from Y Yeast. I can get you a number on that.
Did you rice hull it with the 40% grist, or were you okay in your mash?
This is a while ago that we brewed this. I think we rice hulled it. I think anytime I approach that, anything over 30%, I put rice hulls in.
It's probably for the best.
Belgian Lambic Y Yeast. I just need to know the number here. 3278.
Okay. And if you were watching on Twitch, you can see both beers on the beer cam.
Beer cam, yes. So it is obviously the pink one.
I hope that.
And then, so unfortunately, like when I was adding the fruit to this, I couldn't get fresh cherries, so I used canned and frozen cherries, a mixture of each. I used tart pie cherries and some sweet ones as well. And I did 2 different batches of it because I was like, I added one, and I was like, oh, not quite enough cherry. And then I added more until I got the cherry flavor that I kind of liked.
And you just added it to the fermenter.
Yep, yeah, just to the fermenter. All right, so yeah, why don't we do some tasting here and see if this hits style. So aroma, the specified fruit should be dominant in the aroma, so cherry. Low to moderate sour character blends with aromas described as barnyard, earthy, goaty, hay, horsey, or horse blanket. The fruit aroma commonly blends well with other aromas.
Yeah, actually, the fruit, and a little bit of
I get fruit, a little like
some horsey.
Yeah, just a little bit of that Brettanomyces, that Brett, and then just like a nice like sharpness from lacto.
Yep, definitely some cherry.
All right, so aroma, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Cherry's coming through real nice. Appearance, the variety of fruit generally determines the color, although lighter colored fruit may have little effect on the color. Color intensity may fade with age. Clarity is often good, though some fruit will not drop bright. Yeah, so, I mean, well, we got some little floaties in there.
Yep.
But
it's very bready.
Flavor-wise?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Appearance, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Like, it's almost like a rosé color.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Almost right on the nose, rosé.
Yep. Flavor, the specified fruit should be evident. Low to moderate sour flavor, often with acidic bite in the finish. The classic barnyard characteristics may be low to high. Let's just talk about the flavor here. So you get Brett right off the...
Bread.
Oh, bread.
Bread from the malt, and then definitely Brett. It's not
I get more lactic.
It's not right. It's a little bit more lactic than Brett, but it's definitely not overly sour.
There's a good cherry character, especially on the end.
I'm not puckering.
Yep.
And then the lactic bite is somewhere towards the back of the tongue.
Yeah.
And it's if you want to talk about the length of the way that the flavor profile goes, it's like from the sip takes a second or so for that lactic to kind of
yeah, it's a little sweeter on the front, and then
sweet and cherry.
Yeah, sweet and cherry on the front, and then you get that tart funkiness in the middle, and then I don't know, I get like almost like a sour cherry lingering on the finish.
It's not as dry as I was kind of thinking it. Well, no, actually, I take that back. It's pretty dry.
It's pretty dry. It just doesn't taste dry, if that makes sense.
I have to like look for it.
The dryness?
Actually, yeah, there it is, way at the back.
Yep.
All right. Interesting.
I like how this turned out. I'm
Yeah.
very happy with it. It's not over. This is I liken it to like a lemonade, like a cherryade. Something like refreshing on a hot day.
Yeah, definitely. This that I'm not super big into sours, but I'm gonna finish this.
Yeah.
This glass here.
Yeah. So I was worried about not having enough of beer to taste on the show.
Oh, because you've been drinking it.
We've been drinking a lot. Friday night I probably put 7-8 pints away. Matt
shit.
put 5 or 6. Carlos was pounding them back too. Like it's
Los.
Yep.
AKA Fireball.
Yes. Yeah. So overall, I'm gonna give this one a thumbs up. I think this hits style.
Nice work.
I really like this one. So I kegged 3 sours at a time. A couple weeks ago. I kegged this one. I kegged the next one we're gonna try, and then the rhubarb one. And so this was my second favorite out of them. The rhubarb was my favorite. And then this one will be number 3. So, why don't we talk about that one then, too?
Oh,
which is the mixed fermentation sour. Do you have the guideline up?
No, which number are we looking for?
This one is 28B. If you want to pull that up, I will pull the recipe. And then you can read some things so people don't have to listen to my voice the entire time.
Yeah, terrible voice. 28B mixed fermentation sour beer. I am also going to go ahead and pull that from Beer Cam here as well. So give me 2 shakes.
All right.
Okay.
You want the recipe quick?
I do. Let her
All
rip.
right. 82% 2-row, 11% wheat, and 6% C20. So this was a blonde ale base.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep, we used we used 30 IBUs of Cascade in the boil at 60 minutes, and then did a initial fermentation with 1056 from Y Yeast.
Okay.
Then after that finished out, we pitched the Belgian Lambic blend again from Y Yeast.
Okay, that same one.
The same one,
number.
yep.
Okay.
I really like how that one turned, like, it does good things to sours. But it's also very unpredictable. So, like, yeah,
What do you mean to what?
Like you never know if you're gonna get something that's super Brett forward or super like lactic forward.
I wonder why that is.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
science behind that.
Yeah, I'm. This is just a pure guess, and how I think it works is I think it depends on temperature is a big one, and then whichever one gets an early hold is going to be more forward.
Well, doesn't sometimes the lacto can kind of interfere with the Brett,
and the Brett can interfere with it. Like they fight for the same.
Like you would want to start with the Brett and then maybe add lacto or PDO later.
Yeah, I don't know.
Potentially, I don't know. Anyway, that's another.
I haven't done a ton of sour research. It's something that I'm like that we did for the 80 style challenge. I'd never thought about doing sours, and now that I'm tasting how some of these sours have turned out, I kind of want to do more sours.
Yeah, Michael Tonsmeyer's got a pretty fantastic book out there, and then there's another book that is like wood and beer. I think it's called something like that. But yeah, I should really jump on that book again. I didn't get very far in it the first time. So, all right. Anyway, that said, 28B mixed fermentation sour beer. Aroma. It's variable by base style. So this is a blonde base style. I'm just getting straight lactic, I think. I gotta muss this up a little bit.
I'm getting a lot of Brettanomyces.
Oh boy, yep. No, there's. Okay, there's a Brett. There's a little bit of lactic, and then
a little like grain sweetness, but not
grainy.
Yep,
grainy. So it's variable by style. The contribution of non-Saccharomyces microbes should be noticeable to strong.
Yeah, I would say that.
I would say so, and often contribute a sour and/or funky wild note. The best examples will display a range of aromatics rather than a single dominant character. The aroma should be inviting, not harsh or unpleasant. And I'm gonna thumbs this one up. So
me too. Aroma's nice.
That it is, and appearance-wise, it's again variable by base style. Here we've got a blonde ale. Clarity can be variable. Some haze is not a fault. Retention can be poor due to high levels of acid or anti-foam properties of some lactobacillus strains. Now, the last beer, the
last beer, like the carbonation's a little
there's
wonky on it.
Like no head on that at all. But like here, this one, it's got a very persistent head and actually some decent lacing. So yeah, kudos on that.
A little hazy. Hold
hazy.
up the patented beer light. Beautiful, like golden color though.
Golden, yep, right. Clarity can be variable. Some haze is not a fault. I already read that. Flavor, let's move into that. So variable again by base style. Look for an agreeable balance between the base beer and the fermentation character. Range of results is possible.
This one I'm curious about. What you're gonna think about this one? It's incredibly Brett forward.
Wow, there's a lot going on in this.
Yeah,
holy shit.
And with a blonde ale as the base, like there's not a ton of base beer there, like flavor wise. But I get like just big like hay, grass,
big time.
And then like horse blanket.
Yep, and then it sours again in that same spot that it did before, and then once that dies, it's very very much malty bready.
Yep.
Again, both of these beers are very light bodied.
Yep.
Wow. This is really really complex. So very impressive. In any case, a range of results is possible from fairly high acidity and funk to subtle, pleasant, harmonious beer. The best examples are pleasurable to drink with the esters and phenols complementing the malt and or hops. The wild character can be prominent, but does not need to be dominating in a style with an otherwise strong malt and hop profile. Acidity should be firm yet enjoyable. I would totally agree with that. But should not be biting or vinegary. I'm not getting any of that in
No.
this. So, prominent or objectionable offensive offensive acetic acid is a fault. Bitterness tends to be low, especially as sourness increases, which is true. I mean, I think that the sourness takes place of the bitterness and the
That's the balance. Yeah.
On these types of beers and on this.
I think the flavor's there. Like I said, I'm very happy with how these turned out. Just to get and at least in my very limited experience with sours, it's so hard to know what your end result is going to be.
It's just funky.
It's super funky, right? And so sours, do you like more Brett forward or do you like more lacto forward?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. Probably a little bit more lactic forward, because sometimes the way that Brett expresses its funk is just weird or bad.
When it tastes like you're just like licking a horse blanket.
Yeah. Goat farm.
Yep.
So in any case, I'll thumbs this one up.
All right. Cool. Oh, the other thing we were doing is we were doing some blending with the two.
Oh,
like the creek
two?
and the
funny.
That was fun. We were drunk, but it was fun.
Nice. Alrighty.
All right. So why don't we talk about? I get to put some more green check marks up. I'm excited about that. All right. What are we talking about today? We're talking about milling. So we've been going over different aspects of malt and how it's a very important ingredient. It's the one that seems to get the most talked about besides hops.
Right.
But we're always talking about flavor or diastolic power or stuff like that. But a very important part of your malt is the milling, the grist, right?
Yep, that can make or break.
Yeah. So we have to mill because we need to crack open those grains.
Yep.
And expose those delightful sugars and enzymes on the inside.
Yeah, and you nailed the correct word on the head. We want to really think of it more like cracking rather than milling. I guess with an impact mill or a hammer mill, which we'll get into, you can definitely go too far with your milling. And by that, what I mean is when we talk about cracking the malt, actually piggybacking on what I was talking about earlier with using rice hulls as to beef up the filter base. So that's what, when you crack the malt, the purpose of that is to make sure that the husk is mostly intact, so that it acts as a filter bed for when you are mashing, sparging, and lautering, especially lautering, which lautering is just it's like another German word that means
recirculation.
Lautering, it means it means separating liquid from solid, essentially, and so it's another German word that means an entire sentence.
Oh, so all German words.
Yeah, kind of like Schadenfreude, driving pleasure from one's misery,
right?
Someone else's misery. So in any case, it's very important that we get the mill set correctly and don't pulverize the husk of the malt too much. We need that filter bed so we don't stick our mash. That's why we would add rice hulls for malts that are stickier, like rye and wheat, or malts that don't have a husk.
So, can you visually see if you've gone too far or not far enough?
Yeah.
Or at least to get an idea. So if you haven't gone far enough with your milling, you're looking whole kernels and stuff in there, or just not enough grain is cracked.
Yes, that's exactly what it would look like.
Okay.
And then another thing that another issue that breweries run into is when you're moving the malt around, at least we use what's called a flex auger. So it's a PVC tube with this sort of corkscrew in it, and if the run is really long, you can risk crushing those up or splitting more husks down to a size that it won't help you with that filtration bed.
Okay. So it'll tear it up too
Mm-hmm.
much. All right, yeah. And so then basically if you end up with flour, you've gone too far.
Correct.
Like, yeah, if you
Well, unless you are one of the 2 breweries in the country that has the mash filter system.
what two are they?
Modest and Alaskan. Modest is
Really?
in Minnesota, Alaskan's the other one. And I mean, I guess those are the 2 that I know of. There might be another one.
So
but-
why would you want to go? Is it just an efficiency issue?
Well, it's like a mash press, essentially. It's a big, long accordion, and when you fill that up, you don't want the husks. You want it to be pulverized into it like a flour instead.
What is the advantage there?
100% rye beer,
Oh.
100% wheat beer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just not possible to really. I mean, I would attempt it on a smaller scale with just a shitload of rice hulls, but
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna stick regardless.
Or apparently your uncle's accordion. which is-
right? So, in any case, yeah, I might have been getting ahead of
Interesting.
myself.
No, that's I had no idea like that Modest was doing that. Like
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yep.
Huh.
Very expensive. Very expensive, and also no, not being offensive, but sort of gimmicky, which is.
Oh yeah.
it's just
Well,
fine.
but I mean that's
You
beer now.
gotta
Beer
choo-
is kind of just gimmicky.
Yeah, that's true. You got to choose
You gotta choose your gimmicks.
your gimmicks wisely.
All right. And so there's really only 2 types of mills. I mean, we've talked about a third, but I think that follows into the second.
I think it's pretty close
So-
to an impact mill.
Yeah.
But
So
talk about the Brew mill.
my first mill was a $20 Corona mill off of Amazon that I modified with some spacers so it got the job done, but it was inconsistent. If
Sure.
that makes sense. And that was an impact mill. It was a plate rubbing against another plate.
Yep.
And it was designed for like masa flour, like, and it worked for. And if you're on a budget, it's a fantastic route to go. But yeah, so an impact mill is this type of mill is made up of 2 different stainless steel heads with rows of jagged teeth that will spin at high speeds. The grain is dropped into the mill and hammered instead of ground to create flour.
Right, and this is why when I read impact mill, I was thinking hammer mill. But the hammer mill is a little different. It spins, and it has like what look like little hammers that pound it.
Okay.
So this seems different, obviously.
Okay. So it spins and like it's just getting smushed.
Yeah, pulverized.
Pulverized. And then the other more common is the burr mill. And these are considered the most common options and feature 2 grinding plates. One is fixed and the other rotates thanks to a power source. The grain is fed into a hole in between the 2 burrs, and you can set that gap, and that'll kind of figure out your grist. And so, why is grinding your own grain important?
Wow. Well, I mean, isn't there something to like it going bad if you have it pre-milled and just sitting around? That's one piece.
Okay. So freshness,
Right,
is an
freshness
issue.
is a piece to the puzzle.
Yeah, because it'll last longer in its whole form than it will, like just because surface area exposed to oxygen.
Right, exactly. Pretty simple. So I think that's probably the best reason, and then also you can set it correctly or properly as to how you want it done,
And so you get a level of consistency there that
Yep,
you wouldn't if you
consistency and
if you
control.
weren't like if you order your grain pre-milled from like Northern Brewer or whatever. Them running it.
right. Which I mean, I'm certain that they take decent enough.
Oh
care
yeah, no,
and-
it's probably fine. And it was fine for the 80 style challenge because
Yeah.
I didn't want to waste 20 minutes milling grain.
Yeah, well, I mean, on a pro level, you can definitely order pre-ground PG malt.
Do you guys grind?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
What so
With the burr mill.
a burr mill? Okay. So size wise, like how much larger is your mill versus like something that a home brewer would use?
It'll fit upwards of. We only throw in like one bag at a time. Like,
Okay.
It'll do a 55-pound bag. one at a time, but it's probably like a bag and a half that'll fit in there.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, it works, and then the flex auger pushes it over to a hopper, so you can kind of mill in the day before.
Oh, cool.
And then just swing it in the morning and get it going, so you don't have to have a super long day.
So would you, at the homebrew level, I guess I never even thought about milling the day before. That's a good idea, Casey.
Yeah.
Why would...
Definitely shorten your brew day.
So the day before should be fine then, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. So I thought about something while we were kind of talking here that I read in the malt book, and that I wanted to discuss, and I think this is the perfect time to discuss it. Wet versus dry milling. I had never heard of wet milling.
Oh boy.
Before I started reading this book, and so wet milling is essentially you wet the grain before you mill it,
Right.
and it makes it like gelatinous isn't quite the right word.
Well, it softens it.
Yeah. And so you're so like it pops the seeds out of the husks or the kernels out of the husks. So you get your husks are whole essentially.
Right, which will only help you.
Yeah,
with
which
your
will help
filtration
your
process.
Yep. But it's also potentially a gummy mess.
Right.
So on the homebrew scale, I think it'd be interesting to experiment with.
Should try that.
But I also don't want to deal with that kind of ridiculous mess. Have you?
No.
Have you like
Heard of it,
looked
but
at
never.
it all? Never like
Never.
never even contemplated it. Like
No. Tradition.
yeah, tradition.
Yeah.
A lot of brewing is tradition. Why do you do that? I don't know. Tradition. Stop asking so many fucking questions.
Tradition's important.
The Ryan Heitzke thinks so.
Indeed, my friend. Yeah, there's the top tradition right there. So, whatever.
Yeah, and so what? So wet milling is a modern technique used to grind malt in preparation for mashing. It's said to bring significant benefits compared to traditional dry milling. It is a practice recommended by the major German brewing plant manufacturers and used in conjunction with the Lauterton. Is often called continuous steep milling and requires that milling take place in the time taken to mash a grist, normally about 20 minutes. Traditional dry milling takes place independently of the mashing process. In wet milling, malt is steeped in a continuous stream of warm water to bring the husk moisture content up to 15% before the malt is ground on a pair of specially designed rollers. In wet milling, the grain husk remains complete, whereas in dry milling it gets fragmented. Because of the higher moisture content during wet milling, there's no dust produced, so explosion risks are eliminated and dust removal equipment is unnecessary.
Jeez, Jesus, explosion risk. I mean, like, you'd have to have an enormous facility.
You'd have to be milling a lot of grain.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you've seen how flammable flour is, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's, if you guys ever want to have just, like, a fun, like, science experiment day, like, I don't know, if you have kids or something, you're like, hey, you want to see something cool? Cornstarch and, like, finely sifted flour go up like nothing else. You can make some awesome fireballs.
Nice.
Yeah, because the husk remains complete, wet milling allows a faster runoff time and greater loading on the Lauterton, deeper grain depth, as well as reduced oxidation of the grain and the resulting wort. Wet milling systems are expensive and rarely seen in small breweries.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because, yeah, like, I can imagine just the hell of getting your mill stuck.
Yeah. I don't think Brewer Chad would be very happy about.
Nah, it sounds like
that.
an Ian job.
Yeah, it does sound like an Ian job. No. Oh, Chad.
All right. We have one piece of listener mail that we should chat about. Is there anything else you think we should cover?
That was pretty
on
straightforward. I'm glad we got to that, though.
Yeah, I think it's important. It's usually not talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that we got a chance to cover it.
So this listener mail comes from Instagram?
This is an Instagram. So, yeah, we're at Blind Ninja Studios on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
If I can figure out how to find... I have to do this every time. All right. This comes from Kyle. Hey there, guys. Big fan of Homebrew Brown. Started listening at the start of the ESC. I was wondering where the best places for beer were if I had a day and a half in Brussels. Thanks for the great content, and remember, no banana. I missed that bit.
What?
The no banana bit.
I don't know if I know that.
So if you read through the the guidelines, the BJCP guidelines, there's a lot of them that say no banana.
That's funny. Well, I know one of the guys. Personally know one of the guys that helped write the BJCP guidelines, and so I can definitely see him. Like I can hear him saying.
I wonder if he's ever listened to our show and then gotten mad when we yelled at it. Yep. Man can dream. Man can dream. So I recommended if he had the time and he likes sours to do the Cantillon tour.
Right.
Because that was absolutely incredible. You see what a brewery looked like 100 years ago, which is really cool.
Yep.
And then I also recommended the Delirium Cafe.
Damn it. That was what I was going to recommend.
Near Grand Place.
I didn't get there, but you recommended it.
Did you get to any cool spots while you were in Brussels? Like not beer related, but
we were there we got there
about a day and a half.
No, like a day. We got there late in the afternoon and then had to leave like early in the morning. So
oh damn.
Yeah. So we were basically just in Brussels to see Windhand, to see this band, and then we wandered around, got some Belgian chocolate, and ate some crepes. But from what I hear, L'Hermitage, and what is it? The Sister were two that,
I don't think I went to either of those.
Well, and then there's also a Brewdog in Brussels.
Yes. So I'm always torn on Brewdog because, yeah, the beer is pretty solid, and you can get some American style IPAs at one. Like if you're craving that, but at the same time, it's a big chain.
Right.
And so, I don't know.
Honestly, what was the listener's name?
Kyle.
Honestly, Kyle, like everywhere you go or everywhere I went that had alcohol in Belgium had really great choices. And
is there anything that you would, any beers like do not miss this beer? Orval?
Period.
Just Orval in Belgium?
West Vleteren, yeah.
If you can find a bottle of Westie, buy it, taste it, especially if you haven't.
$12 12-ounce bottle of beer.
More like
14.
Well, so if it's €15 or €12, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things. It's worth it for the story. I think like if you're never gonna go back to Belgium again, or like it's slim chance, do it. Try it. You're not gonna regret it.
I was very, very happy to find a bottle of Orval at this Italian cafe restaurant that we went to, and it was only a couple months old. And I've had multiple years old Orval. I've had fresh Orval now, and it is, to me, it's just the most outstanding beer in the world.
Yep.
Which is a freaking bold statement.
I would also say do not sleep on the Mussels and Fritz. In Brussels especially, it's going to be, and if you're near Grand Place, it's going to be kind of expensive. But having that with a Belgian beer is so good. Like just a pound of just steamed mussels and fries, and
then after that, you've got to go find the mannequin piss.
But
there's a mannequin, there's a dog, and a cat too, right?
No, there's the mannequin. There's the what is it? It's the little peeing boy, the little peeing girl, and the peeing dog.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yep. So the little peeing girl is actually right outside of Delirium Cafe. So, and we didn't notice. We were sitting there. I met a Norwegian couple there. So it was me and my brother's fiance and this Norwegian couple. We were hanging out, and we look out the window, and there's this just little girl squatting. Like, we're like, what in the world?
Alrighty then.
Yeah. So, and like all of this stuff is like within a couple of blocks of each other.
Yeah, the Grand Place. There's a lot going on in the Grand Place. So I mean, if you can get yourself there and not get shanghaied by a cab driver like we did, dude, this dude was just driving around and around.
It's a 20-minute walk from the train station.
Right.
Like, just walk.
We should have just walked, but I think at that point, having carried, our rucksacks
that far,
that far.
So the
I
food.
was there on St. Patrick's Day too.
Oh damn!
Yeah, I was out until 4 in the morning, and I was dancing in a club for some reason.
Nice.
I know. Do I look like the type of person that would dance in a club?
Hell yeah!
I don't know if the listeners have ever seen what I look like, but I definitely am not.
You're clubbing every night.
No. The only clubs I go to are to see heavy metal shows.
Yeah. So the food. Don't sleep on the food.
Yeah. This man, even the Italian restaurant we went to, and then we had a bunch of leftover pasta. Like, we didn't finish our pasta, and we asked for like a to go, and they were kind of like, what? Like,
Yeah, you just eat the pasta.
Okay. They did. They threw it in some tinfoil and wrapped it in
nice.
plastic for us, but they were like, hey, we don't really do that, and I'm like, oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah. So
Stupid America.
let us know what you end up finding in Brussels.
Yeah, and as far on the subject again, I think we did. I think the episode prior to this last week was our listener mail. Was a listener mail episode. If you guys have any questions, comments, whatever. If we get something wrong, don't hesitate.
Yeah.
We get stuff wrong sometimes.
Yeah, no.
It is what it is.
Take a leaf out of Bjorn's book and send us the shit that we're wrong about, because
totally
again,
fine.
as weird as it sounds, we're still learning too. Like this is a massive learning experience. That's part of the reason we do it.
And then what do we always say? Ask 10 brewers,
get
10 answers.
10 answers. So we're really working on trying to find the right answer, so we can prove all these other brewers wrong.
Who are these people?
All right, should we get out of here?
Yeah.
All right. Outro. There we go.
Oh, click it. Click it. Fade.
You want to do my job?
Nope.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in this week. And again, if you'd like to support us, head over to patreon.com/blindnewstudios. You click on the Patron link on our homepage. It truly, really does help us out. And if you don't have anything to give, that's fine. But if you do, a buck a month, it really helps. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, or what have you, go ahead and shoot us an email at feedback@blindnewstudios.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/blindnewstudios, or follow us on Twitter at blind_ninja. And I'll see you guys next week.
Peace.